War. That's it. Plain and simple. That's exactly what this has been. A war. A war for the soul of wrestling. Real wrestling.
It's about a real fight, and it's about a legit fight, and it's about showing people who don't understand what deathmatch is, what deathmatch is.
It's like the magnum opus of everything that we've done. Like, we started DMDU to be different, and immediately, you know, the detractors set up in the other camp, and that's Anti-Deathmatch Party.
In my entire life, it's the one constant that I've always remembered. So for me, War Games, it's one more time to share a magical moment.
With the game of war, no one wins. There will be the ones that are left, and there will be the ones that are dead.
Look at how we have dominated as a team. No one can touch us. And I'm not just talking about in DMDU, I'm talking about in the country.
That we've done as a company, let alone as individuals, has been tainted by Anti-Deathmatch Party.
Is a cesspool. It is some freak show for some has-beens to throw themselves against inanimate objects through glass, through barbed wire, through thumbtacks, things that you'll find at Officeworks or your local Bunnings, just for 5 minutes of fame.
Deathmatch is just a bunch of people who play professional wrestling. And I wish I could even say play professional wrestling. No, they just play around and they disgrace my ring.
They believe it's professional wrestling, and the scope in which it exists is different to what I believe professional wrestling is and the scope in which it exists. And whatever subgenres or, I guess, niches that you want to consider wrestling as opposed to, you know, barbarism or garbage or stupid or whatever. It comes down to a different ideology.
They fear it because they can't do it.
Blood, sweat and tears. For Anti-Deathmatch Party, it's very figurative. For Team Deathmatch, it's literal.
They peddle this trash, they peddle this vile barbaricism.
So come War Games, I'm going to show them what blood, sweat and tears is really all about.
This match means everything to not just me, but to ADMP and to an entire generation of talent in this country.
This is how we find out who's right. History will be written by the victors. We're either correct and standing tall as deathmatch wrestlers, or we'll die trying.
It'll be defined in the color of red of who's more right than someone else.
And I'm so excited to see them lose that war once and for all.
When I started wrestling, the three people on top were Mad Dog, Lobo, Spike's Dead.
Rosie set the wheels in motion.
It's a shame that we meet him in a cage.
Means I get a chance to see what all the hype's about.
Lobo was one of the first people to ever believe in me in wrestling.
I've never been more excited for a match and for a moment in my entire career in over 20 years in anything that I ever stood for.
I've heard stories about Lobo. People speak highly of him. They say that he built the foundation of what we work on.
You know, the last time he wrestled was, what, 5 odd years ago? And before that, it had been almost 10 before then. So being influenced so heavily by him and what he did and the stuff that I got to see him and, you know, the other two do live in my formative years as a person, not just as a wrestler, comes full circle as an adult is the coolest fucking thing in the world.
And I remember he went up to me in the locker room before all this DMDU stuff. And he said to me that when I'm not in a locker room, that locker room is missing out. There is a bunch of young talent that is missing out with you not being there. I remember that conversation and I listened to it. And you could honestly say it's part of the reason I've been so strongly linked with ADMP. You can thank Lobo for that.
I think War Games will be one of those win, lose or draw. I think the result is irrelevant when it comes to history.
It's embedded in reality.
Getting them to show some respect.
Being stupid to not lace them up for this particular moment.
I want you to show me exactly what people have been talking about.
For it to be so compelling that somebody like Lobo wants to lace him up one more time, I think where it sits in the history books, it's already been written.
In 5 years, we went from New Japan Pro Wrestling to DMDU.
This match is a big statement towards Australian wrestling being back.
That night, War Games, one team has to go down and one team has to go up, and whatever I have to physically do to be able to make sure that we're standing tall with our hands raised high. I'll sacrifice everything that I have left. It might not be much, but like I said, I'll still swing for the fence.